Hello, and welcome to Revamped, a rewatch podcast that revisits my top favorite shows and movies. I'm your host, Brandon Alexander, joined by my co-host,
Courtney Autumn.
Venture with us as we set our sights on the infamous Hellmouth to cover 90s cult classic, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Follow along from the beginning, spoiler-free, as Courtney views the show for the first time and I revisit the series for new takes and a fresh perspective on its narrative.
Each season, every episode, in order, we will follow Buffy Summers and her friends to examine their character development, the show's underlying themes, along with its major story arcs, all while engaging in conversations, sharing our own authentic thoughts and feelings to what's unfolding before us.
So sharpen your stakes, load your crossbows, and join us as we explore the supernatural world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's get into the episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer on Revamped. The real Revamped, the true Revamped, the only Revamped. It applies to this episode. It's what we would call applicable. Appliques.
Love it.
Today we're covering Season 2, Episode 3, School Hard. It aired originally September 29th of 1997 and was written by David Greenwalt and Joss Whedon, directed by John T. Kretschmer. It's always something at Sunnydale High. Snyder assigns Buffy to coordinate parent-teacher night just as the villainous vampire duo Spike and Drusilla arrive in Sunnydale. Meanwhile, Giles warns her of the powerful night of St. Vigius approaching. Buffy must balance her responsibilities, avoid expulsion, and thwart the impending attack. However, when Spike chooses to crash parent-teacher night with a gang of vampires to kill the Slayer, Buffy is forced to defend her mother, friends, and school staff against them. Cool thing about this, because we actually have some people coming in now, pretty much moving forward, because I've noticed this with developing the next couple of scripts, we actually have some special guest stars, and some of them are people that have a name for themselves, or are making a name for themselves, I guess I should say. Either way, getting to my point, our special guest stars this episode, and new introduction for the cast, are James Marsters as Spike, and as Drusilla. And there's my first joke. Just kidding, you guys. It's Juliet Landau as Drusilla.
Oh, man. You should be like, bleep, when you go to edit.
Yes, and I guess this would be a time to step in here before I go in my opening thoughts on the actual episode to say Juliet Landau actually came for our podcast name. Most people sort of know that from following us on Instagram, but if you're just a listener, Juliet Landau decided to change her Slayin' It podcast that she created last summer to Revamped with Juliet Landau, and that poses issue because I am revamped and I'm a small creator, and the Buffy fandom has come forward in immense ways to be supportive and help get the message out there for us, because they're small creators too. Most of the people who do Buffy podcasts or support Buffy, whether that be on an Instagram page or a social platform to where they can still talk about this awesome show just like we're doing, and they've helped get the message out there. They've written some comments to help change her mind, because obviously I had a discussion with Juliet in Instagram messaging, and she was like wanting to keep her name, and I was like, listen, we're both the same content creator. We're both doing a Buffy rewatch podcast. Obviously you have a much larger audience than I do, and I'm not worried about being outshadowed, because I myself am here to just have fun and hang out with you and put this out there. Now, obviously, my biggest thing is that I want the show, or this show, to be my love letter to the universe and to put it out there for the other Buffy fans as well. So that way they have content, because I've enjoyed listening to all the podcasts, and we all coexist very well together when it comes to not stealing each other's names, quote unquote. I'm stealing as a harsh term to use. But at this point, I feel like she's taken it and rolled with it, even though she's had multiple fan outreach, myself talking to her and asking her to please change her name after, an instance of conversation. And that was my final words. And then I just got met with being blocked and disregarded as a human being. So it made me feel very sad. Obviously, this also poses issues too, because I have a trademark that I created for the name Revamped. Even though it's a different thing, hers is with Juliet Landau, mine is a rewatch podcast, because I don't plan to just cover Buffy the Vampire Slayer over my full run of this podcast.
Well, you paid for a trademark.
Yeah, I paid for the trademark, and it takes a year, more time sometimes than that, for it to get fully finalized. But based on the time frame that I sent it out, it's actually active on Trademark Engine. You can search on Google trademarks and type in Revamped, and I'm on the list of people that come up. There is other companies that have used the name, business models or whatever, but they're not podcasts, they're not anything else. There is a British like one-man show over in Europe somewhere that's named Revamped Buffy, and it's a guy that's basically dressed up like Spike, acting out and singing monologues from Spike's perspective or something. I've never watched it, but I obviously doing my own research, I didn't see stuff come up for the United States at all, or any other thing that he's put a coin to his name. You know what I mean? He's not
Right.
I didn't see a copyright law.
Well, and he's not a podcast, so
Exactly.
it's
It's
closely
specs.
aligned with hers being not just a podcast, but we are watching Buffy. We'll obviously be watching Buffy for a long time, being that there are all these seasons. So my whole take on it was that as a large creator like she is and someone who's kind of in the business, she should absolutely know that it's her responsibility to double check this stuff and make sure that something doesn't exist that she's already trying to use or whatever, you know?
Yes. Yeah, she didn't do her due diligence whenever it comes to that aspect. And I feel like it's been nice too because I mean, Becoming Buffy posted a thing at the beginning of their most previous episode talking about this, but it's also some other stuff that's coming out about Juliet, about her potentially grifting people and stealing money from people, like because they had that whole makeup line that came out and people
Heard
didn't
about
never
that.
get their makeup, and also with some movie that she was supposed to make or whatever like that. I don't really follow her movie career as far as that goes. I only know Juliet from Buffy, so that is what it is. But I don't know. It's just this whole mess. And then people have been messaging me recently, checking back in to be like, are you going to press charges or like do anything active with this? And I said, not at this time. No, because when I'm still a small creator, I'm also a small person in the world when it comes to the bigger context of things. And I did create the trademark so that way, if this situation arose, I could handle it and deal with it if need be. And it's still a thought in the back of my head, but right now I'm still like just letting it fester because I'm hoping with all the comments that have come out and with her having some time to think on her decision and hopefully maybe get some stuff in order for herself, maybe she will have the wise decision to change her name so that way
Mm.
I don't have to retaliate in that way, because I've never had a legal battle. I've never gone to a lawyer for anything in my life. And I would rather just keep my peace over here and not have to do any of that or waste any of my hard earned small time money that I make towards that issue. So that will help clear up anybody that's being like, well, why don't you just, sue her right now? Because I'm not ready for that. If it comes to it, I will. I'm just hoping that time will play it out and we'll figure it out. And if I need to revisit the idea, I will.
Yeah, well, and that's the good thing too. I think the best approach is to give her the opportunity to maybe do the right thing. So we'll act
What if her
accordingly.
Yes, exactly. So, either way, I just wanted to take some time at the beginning of our episode to minutely talk about this for anybody that doesn't know anything that's a viewer of our Instagram page and seeing the posts that I've created and all of that. That's kind of a situation I've been dealing with. And ironically enough, this is the episode where Juliet makes her appearance in the Buffyverse. So, here we are. I figured this was the best episode to speak on it and clear the air. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the actual episode and disconnect from real life scenarios and get into the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. First off, the thing I have about this episode is the title School Hard. It's a play on the movie Die Hard, if you've ever seen it, with Bruce Willis. The movie itself features an attack of unsuspecting terrorists and essentially him having to take out the bad guys one by one around the building, and he has to like take them down and all this good stuff. Or he gets sent there. I don't know. He's a cop. So there's the things.
We know that.
But I can see the ties to it and the scenes that they mirrored being plot elements for the episode, because when you watch it, like Buffy being in the ceiling, just like the whole thing, this all around is ranked as a top tier Buffy episode by many, including me. This is the epitome of the show's title, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, with the introduction of Spike and Drusilla and raising the stakes for the season dramatically as well. We now have a villain, again in the form of a vampire, and a scary one at that, with the fact of what we learned about his past, in theory. This also plays into the furthering of Angel's backstory, and he already knows who Spike is in a very big way. There is a decent amount of true suspense and horror for what's taking place, especially if you view this as if you don't know what's going to come after, which I am not in that position. But for you, Courtney, it's Lich the Stitch. But the elements of Buffy having to do her Slayer duty in front of everyone while not exposing who she is was really, really cool. It puts it in a huge realm of suspense because we're like, how is she going to do this? And best of all, we get a heavy dosage of Joyce Summers this episode, because since the attack that we had an Angel in season 1 by Darla, we haven't gotten much Joyce in the line of danger. The last time we saw her was in that episode in the hospital, and she was like basic of the attack, and she's not attacked in this episode, but she's here right there in the forefront of all this shit that's going on. It's cool to see this dynamic and how it actually helps Buffy in her situation by the end, which we'll talk about then. Oh, and this is the first time that the show actually reveals the name Joyce to us, because before this, we've been just knowing her as Miss Summers. When we did our podcast with Prophecy Girls, they were talking about this as well. But this is like the physical first time we hear the name Joyce because she introduces herself. We've been saying it from jump. I couldn't call her Buffy's mom the whole time. That was just really annoying. I was doing it in my notes like the first episode, and I was like, she Joyce. And also, I did want to mention too, it's official. Cordelia is a full-time member of the Scooby Gang now, as she willingly helps and offers her time to help Buffy and the gang prep for the night of St. Vigius. She's up in there in the library doing the damn thing. And poor Buffy, this whole episode, for working hard to create this event, only for Spike to come and ruin it. But help raise the stakes and set up a big fight at the school, which we also haven't seen in the show except for the final showdown in Prophecy Girl. We've seen it in small ways. Obviously, something's always taking place at the school, but this is like a full-on attack, and everyone's involved as well. Like, there's a lot of different elements of danger going on here. So I really enjoy the episode for the huge encompassment that we get from everything going on in it. I'll have more to say whenever we get to the end, but and across as well. But I want to know, what did you think of School Hard, and how do you feel about your initial predictions for the now you know why school is hard?
Yeah, I mean, that title was super vague because this is Sunnydale we're talking about. So I'm just like, everything is hard at this school every day, it would seem. But I really enjoyed this episode. I love that we got a lot of Joyce. I was really happy about that. Cordy was interesting, and I really like to see her just be more present and be kind of reluctantly involved, because she's still like, in a rush to go, or she's still like ready to get back to pretending like she doesn't have anything to do with them kind of situation, but she's a lot more involved and a lot nicer, I'll say. So yeah, really Cordy's growing on me the most, I think so far. I'll say that because I didn't think that was going to happen this soon.
All right, great.
She's not my favorite yet. Still, Daddy Giles is my favorite, but
I forgot you did say that in season 1 that you were like really liking Giles.
yeah,
I thought Xander was going to grow the most on you.
no. I mean, maybe now since we have some new members into the situation that I dislike more than I ever have Xander.
I can't wait till we get to the episodes with Xander that I really enjoy, because we got a comment review the other day, and they were like, "It's just like every other typical podcast, Xander bashers, blah blah blah," and I'm like, and this is what everybody gets, because Prophecy Girls also told us there's a certain section for each category of like what kind of comments they get on their stuff, and most of them are either praising Xander slander or they're Xander defenders. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm not here to like just rag on Xander the whole time. Nice to
Well, and I
see.
think it's because like the show initially in season 1, there's not a lot of just like new characters getting laced in or other things that could be happening to distract you away from the point. So I think we're so hyper fixated on just them as a group. But now that things are starting to evolve, I do feel like we'll probably, let off Xander a little bit since there's some other contribution of bullshit happening.
What did you think of like the overall attack on the school and like the elements for everything that went down as far as that goes?
Holy shit. Talk about something I didn't see coming. That was one of those instances. Like, normally, I feel like up until now, I think that a lot of the peak moments in each episode were almost like we saw them coming, or we knew when or where they would happen or who they would happen to. So there was this undertone of like you always kind of knew what to expect, even if you didn't know like right the moment. But that caught me so fucking off guard. And that's when I really started forming an opinion on new characters, because I was like, oh, fuck no.
All right, great. Well, I can't wait anymore. Let's be impatient like Spike and jump right into the episode.
In every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
Opening at the school, where we find Buffy and fellow school student Sheila being lectured by Principal Snyder in his office, describing himself as not so much Princey Pal, but more so a judge, jury, and executioner, because he be wanting to kill the students versus nurture them. He asks them who they think is the most troublesome student in the school, and they both look to each other, remaining quiet, while Snyder admits
It is quite a match between you two. On the one hand, Buffy hasn't stabbed a horticulture teacher with a trowel. On the other hand, Sheila has never burnt down a school building.
because we got to be bringing up the burning down of school items by Buffy. School items, school property. Every episode. But Buffy and her hilarious comeback.
Well, that was never proven. The fire marshal said it could have been mice.
Mice.
Mice that were smoking?
Mice that were smoking. I was like, girl. But here we go again. A fun little callback because we had episode 1 where she's telling Flutie that it was like asbestos, and now she's trying to come up with some other reason that, like, I don't know. It's a funny way for her to say it because, like, at this point, we would assume Buffy is just a pyromaniac. So
You would figure she would just embrace it since no one else wants to let it go.
All I gotta say is at least Snyder didn't find out or know that she had anything to do with the fucking school building getting burned down at the end of last episode whenever Daryl and all of them was in it. Like, that would have not posed well for Buffy. Snyder continues, these two are really neck and neck in the race to become Sunnydale High's next top expelled students. I wanted to say that like Tyra Banks from America's Next Top Model. He tells them of parent-teacher night approaching Thursday, deciding to put the two of them in charge of the event, prepare the school's lounge for it by creating the banner, setting up refreshments, and making the school night run smoothly. If they do as such, they will incur his goodwill and may affect what he tells their parents when he meets them. Buffy having to speak for both to say that they are very clear. Him threatening good, because if it doesn't happen, then their parents will be cleaning out their lockers upon their departure. And I'm like, I wonder if the PAX Core 4 assholes parents had to come clean out their lockers because we ain't seen them in a while. So maybe he got them to come and do that for them. You know, Snyder was like on their tail and got them kicked out. So they're not even in detention anymore. They're just like straight gone. He's like, you four, bye. But also, can he really do that? Can a school official appoint a student to take care of something like this? Because does the school pay for the refreshments that they had, all the lemons for Buffy's delicious lemonade? Like, I would hope so.
The same thing. I was like, since when do the students do this? I thought this was like a different situation.
I don't really know if they can do this or not. Obviously, Buffy's gonna hop on board because she doesn't want to get in trouble, but I don't know. I was curious. We flash outside at the end of the school day where Buffy exits with Sheila, taking charge to say that it shouldn't be too hard, trying to collaborate on when they can get the stuff done over the next few days. Sheila giving her a yeah, sure, whatever, leaving her to go meet up with her 39-year-old boyfriend waiting for her named Meat Pie, apparently. Meat Pie. Can we just sit with that for one moment? Because it's given pork and beans for me whenever I heard it. I was like, Meat Pie? I want to know the backstory of his name. I don't want to know nothing else about Sheila, but I want to know all about Meat Pie. Because he was not cute. He was given Kid Rock imposter. Not looking cute at all. His hair basically.
I literally said he was like her gateway for being a lesbian, because she definitely is.
Yes. All right, great. Xander and Willow meet up with Buffy, commenting on about her duties that Snyder has bestowed upon the two. Buffy retorting his two worst students and how her mama sees Sheila when she looks at her. I was like, it's not that dramatic, but the two call Sheila intense, Willow adding,
She was already smoking in 5th grade. Once I was lookout for her.
And Xander being like,
You're bad to the bone.
and she's like, I'm a rebel. There ain't no way in hell you're a rebel, Willow. Willow ain't had that kind of time in nightmares when poor Laura was going down to the boiler room to have her sig and be crushed up by the ugly man, though. Where was Willow on lookout duty then?
You're real right. I
Like
totally forgot about that.
Brandon. I didn't. Buffy wonders what her excuse for troubles are. She's a Slayer, giving valid reasons for her cutting and her problematic side. Also wondering if any other Slayers had to deal with a life like hers, and, you know, go to high school, do all these things. Xander tries to encourage everything will run fine. As long as nothing bad happens between now and then, they'll be fine. Buffy scolding him now. As soon as this happens on jinxing the situation, he nervously says back, nothing's bad's going to happen, and Willow's slapping him to say,
Until some dummy says, as long as nothing bad happens, it's the ultimate jinx.
and the two scold him even further on not thinking and walking off from him as he calls out behind them. And I thought it was cute because he's like grabbing his bag, clutching it, and he's like, well, you never know. This time might be different. And I'm like, oh boy, it's going to be different for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But this is like totally true. It's like the horror movie person, they say in the trope to not say, I'll be right back, because you definitely won't be back on the screen.
Yes,
AKA you going off to your death.
situation.
Right. Yes, this sets it up because just as we cut to nighttime after this scene and see our peaceful welcome to Sunnydale sign in the front of the park before a black DeSoto car crashes into the sign, ripping it to pieces. Hard rock music beginning to play, a foot stepping out as we pan up the person's body to find a platinum blonde badass looking vampire in a long leather trench coat walking away from the car, lighting up a cig.
He got a camel crush.
Yes, anyways, he stands around and takes in the area and he exclaims to himself,
Home sweet home.
home sweet home. Time to cue the Buffy theme. Bow, now, now, now. What were your thoughts of this scene and Spike coming in hot like this?
Well, I already knew from that point with the grand entrance that it was more or less for a reason. It set the tone properly. He's gonna cause trouble for Buffy for sure. He's not on our side.
Nah, it's all gonna be great. Like Xander said, it's gonna be fine.
And that hair need to go.
Well, it don't.
Do you think that, like, when they bleached his hair like that some of it, like, came out?
Yes, there's actually quotes from him saying that he had sores on his scalp for how often they had to bleach it.
He need that purple shampoo.
I do need that purple shampoo. Well, we flash over at the factory from when she was bad. We listen to a vampire speaking on the master being fully dead because he's gone, he's out of here, and someone needing to take his place. But as long as the Slayer is around, those in his place will be sharing the master's same fate. We see Colin sitting around them, surrounded by a group of vampires, and I guess his new Threads post really helped him connect so quickly with these new vampires. He was like, all right. He said, algorithm, help me once again find the vamp. The vampire goes on to say the one who kills the Slayer should claim the mantle, Colin asking if he can do it, which he assures the anointed, I can definitely do that. Adding this weekend is the night of St. 𝑽𝒊𝒈. Their power will be at its peak, noting that this is when he will kill the Slayer, proclaiming the event to be the biggest since the crucifixion, of Christ. My fave. And how he should know as he was there. This is where we're going to call bullshit. And basically Spike walks in calling bullshit, having found their lair, calls out from behind him, laughing at him, saying, oh, please, completely shitting on the vampire to call him out, aka on his bullshit, and saying that the event would have been like Woodstock. He was there. The whole experience was trippy to him, and he found a flower person and fed off of her and spent the next several hours watching his hand move. And I was like, that's totally an acid trip if I've ever heard one.
That's literally what I put on my notes. I was like, AKA, you're doing acid.
Which is so cool. If like a vampire feeds off of somebody that has taken a medication or something like that, they get the effects of it. So I'm like, damn, you didn't know you were going to be feeding off of somebody that was tripping out. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Probably got to be really fun for a vampire, because as a mortal, you start taking LSD and you do too much. And you're like, damn, I want to not be high anymore. And you also could potentially harm yourself. Not really off of LSD, but there are certain drugs that could possibly
the PCP
make you feel yes, the PCP. It can make you feel really bad and make you feel like you're in danger. But when your heart's already stopped, you have those danger elements dropped out the window, like Angel jumps out of.
Yes.
Either way, the vampire attempts to run up on him. He punches him to the ground, laying him out immediately. Colin looks on impressed as the man asks, so who do you kill for fun around here? Colin asking, who are you? The man informing him that his name is Spike, telling him he's that anointed guy and that he's read about him. Having overheard them prior, he mentions that they've got Slayer problems. That's a piece of bad luck.
Do you know what I find works real good with Slayers? Killing them.
Colin asking, can he? Spike shitting once again on Nancy Boy, that vampire that's passed out, to say a lot faster than him, letting us know.
Yeah, I did a couple Slayers in my time. I don't like to brag.
Laughing at himself, saying, who am I kidding? I love to brag. Starting to tell the tale of the Slayer that he killed during the Boxer Rebellion, when soft, eerie, childlike music begins to play. When we see a woman walking up in a white dress, Spike, sensing her, turns to face her, his face morphing back to human. He calls her Drusilla and joins her, saying that she shouldn't be walking around. She's weak. She's entranced by the crowd of vampires, asking if these are new friends. She moves past him, locking eyes on the anointed. She is sensing some power that he has. She could feel it from the outside, which drew her in. We get the sense from her immediately that Drusilla is not in her right mind. The two share some intimate moments, and she slices his cheek and licks away his blood. As Spike announces to the room, he and Drew are moving in, commanding the room to say anyone against him step up, which no one does. Then he assures Colin that he will do the Slayer for him, as long as he keeps his flunkies from attempting shit behind his back. Drusilla grabbing at her head to say that she can't see the Slayer. It's dark where she is. I almost want to do the English accent. I gotta start imitating her, but I also don't want to. And it introduces also the fact that Drusilla has some power of vision or psychic sight, requesting that he kill the Slayer for her. She's like, kill her for me, Spike. All right, I did it. He asked the anointed, so the Slayer, is she tough? We get a round of cutscene transition magic to Buffy in her room, in her mirror, brushing out her hair, stating, ow. Joyce, hearing her, pops her head into the room, asking what's wrong, as she has heard the ow, so she must sense that the positive vibes are not flowing in here. Buffy tells her,
I spent a good part of my allowance on this new cream rinse, and it's neither creamy nor rinsey.
and I could have avoided that, but I was like, as a hairdresser, I have to put this dialogue in here because I liked her terminology for it being not creamy or rinsey. Life's hard, Joyce says, and also saying to Buffy that she got the mail, which included a lovely reminder notice for Thursday's parent-teacher night, noting also when was it that she was going to be planning on telling her about it. Buffy stating, just the last 2 weeks or so. And I was like, this is so giving me in school. God forbid I have to bring home like an interim report for my parents to sign or any kind of stuff like
Yeah.
that. And anytime I had a project due or anything like that, I told my parents at 10 o'clock the night before. or just
Same.
or just didn't do it, aka all kids apparently.
Yeah.
She also asked, what does she think that her teachers will tell her? And Buffy claims that she will for sure say that she arrives ready to absorb the knowledge. Well, at least she's attending class. And Joyce inquires how this absorption rate is showing in the form of her homework and test scores. And Buffy is trying to cleverly ask,
What can you really tell about a person from a test score?
and Joyce is like,
Whether or not she's ever going out with her friends again.
Oh, that.
and I'm like, oh, fuck.
Joyce was so savage in this scene. I
Joyce
was like, damn, coming in hot.
And that's what I wrote. I was like, Joyce coming in with the stance and the snark. She must be out of weed because she's coming up in the room pissed the fuck off. I was like, no.
I know whenever Buffy was like, I always bring a pen, I was like, Joyce probably over there like a vape pen.
Well, then Joyce has to say that she looks forward to meeting the principal and the teachers, then reminding her of all the bad that she's caused to them since she moved here in the first place, not wanting to be disappointed in Buffy again. And Buffy's like, I assure you that I don't want that either. And I like it because Buffy actually tries to express to her mom, that's obviously the last thing I want as well. And then she also adds that she has a lot of pressure on her right now. And Joyce stating, wait till you get a job, and then leaves her room for the night as Buffy goes over and she's like opening her desk drawer with all her crosses in there, holy water stakes, and looking at her reflection to say, I have a job. Joyce is still on this shit. I know why, because one, we need the reminders of Buffy's troubles from the past, because, if you haven't tuned into the show before, we got to know that there's some problems going on here. But also to set up for the ending scene between the two and add some gravel to the situation of hosting the PTA night. In my opinion, I was like, damn, Joyce, she ain't done nothing bad so far as we know. So I'm not certain that this is the case, because otherwise we would have been seeing this across the other episodes. Should Joyce still be bringing this shit up? Yeah. I get why for the episode and for us as the viewer, but in a real life scenario, I would have to look at my mom and be like, bitch, what are you talking about? She's like, you burned down a gym.
You'll be okay.
Buffy's at school the next day, painting a banner with Willow, who is there in place of Sheila because she is a no-show. Buffy asking her to cram in French study that night to impress her teacher so she won't tell Joyce that her daughter's an imbecile. Small thing here, Buffy's got that little red streak on her face where the paint got on her face. Buffy being kind of clumsy a little bit. Obviously, she has great coordination when it comes to slaying vampires most of the time. But in this instance, I just know that she opened the can of paint and then just immediately accidentally touched her face and was like, fuck, But obviously subtextual. I think it's interesting that Drusilla just cut Spike and put a red slash on his cheek in the same side. So it's kind of mirroring that streak of blood that was there, like a preface to Spike's energy coming about before Buffy's actually met him. I noticed that this time around and I never really paid attention to that before.
I didn't notice that at all. That's actually really nice. Yeah, thanks for that.
I know, right? It means so much. Over here painting, Willow is bummed because she thought it was Bronze night, how she wanted to go originally, maybe in case Angel would show up. And Xander, of course, walking up to say if he does, he can meet some other nice girl and how studying should come first. Now, this time I actually agree with Xander because studying should come first in Buffy's case because everything that's about to go down this episode, you need all the shit you can do because you do not need that teacher telling your mom awful things about you or I actually don't even know who Buffy is because she's never in class. She's always in the library. Y'all should go talk to Giles because the librarian knows exactly who she is. But obviously Xander once again on his shit to be like, no, don't pay attention to Angel. He'll find some other girl. And I'm rolling my eyes low key at the same time.
Very low key.
Buffy now for sure is we're going to the Bronze, saying that she can study there and keep all the list of things this week it has in order for her, as long as she doesn't have to ... as Giles appears behind her with what I'm going to call in-scene transition magic, because him and Jenny come walking up and her finishing, after he calls her name, fight vampires. And I'm like, exactly. Giles tells Buffy of Miss Calendar finding through her computer research that this weekend is the night of St. Vigius, her guessing that he didn't make balloon animals, and him stating no, he led a crusade of vampires, decimating the areas that they swept through. Buffy lets him know that she'll see what she can do, but first she has to make sure that parent-teacher night comes through before she can get to Saturday. He lets her know that this is very serious, her reminding him that her getting kicked out of school is just as. He tells her that this is going to need preparation. Willow hopping in to offer their assistance to help, Xander offering to whittle stakes. Giles is pleased, but adds Buffy has to do battle alone. After all, she is the slay, ... as Snyder appears behind him, catching himself to change course and realizing they need to flee, telling Jenny that they should leave. And she's like, yes, let's. And in my head, because of me and you, I just heard let's. But they go, and Snyder snarks that these two aren't here helping Buffy in Sheila's place, are they? They try to hide this fact, but he isn't dumb, claiming that she ditched, breathing in a heavy heap of vile air to say that he smells expulsion. Buffy, wigging, claims no, Sheila had been helping, but she went out to get more pain. Thankfully, she appears literally in that moment just behind them coming into the school, looking hungover as fuck, as she's like struggling to take off her sunshades. Buffy playing it off, and she like gets Snyder off her trail because she like walks over to Sheila and she's like, oh, they didn't have any more teal in the art room, it's okay, blah blah blah. And I'm like, whatever. So they all get back to work, and I'm assuming Sheila sticks around to help. But for me, like, Sheila walking in at this moment and really looking at her, this bitch literally looked drunk as fuck. Like, she's been on a bender for 7 days and all the things.
Really?
And I'm like, one, I know this bitch ain't brushed her mouth, because you can probably smell the vodka and PBR all over her breath from across the room. How in the fuck is Principal Snyder letting this obvious display pass? Anybody with eyeballs can see that Sheila is just showing up, but just look at her presence.
Totally.
It's just like how they say, if people don't know you sober, like whether you're a drinker or a smoker like myself, I could be like, oh, nobody knows I smoke weed. So if I show up the first time meeting them and I'm a little stoned or something, they're just going to assume this is naturally my nature of being, versus like seeing me at sober and then seeing me hit the joint and I'm like geeking out and laughing too much or whatever. But Sheila, what is happening?
No, but that's why I was confused throughout the episode, because I was like, why are we even still discussing Buffy up for expulsion at all when this bitch clearly is such a problem, like an obvious problem? And I'm not talking about like, oh, you might have burned the gym down at your old school 2 years ago and we can't shut up about it, so I'm going to expel you and keep my eyes on you. But this bitch is obviously like drinking like in her car on the way to school. She has it in her locker. She got a handle of Jack in her locker, like tipping it back between classes. I'm like, and we're still talking about who are we expelling? I think it's clear.
Yeah, that bitch is probably like drinking Jack and Coke, because that's
She
the
stole it
most
out of her
disgusting
parents'
drink.
cabinet.
Literally, she seems like the type that would just drink anything she can get her hands on. To
Or
be quite
maybe
honest.
because her boyfriend that looks like Kid Rock might be like able to pass with no ID, he gets her all the Jack Daniels that she wants.
Well, we know he takes her out for dinner at Mrs. Lovett's, fucking her bakery in Sweeney Todd, because
They get meat pies.
his name is Meat Pie. He's like, Sweeney Todd's my favorite musical.
What's your rush? What's your hurry? You gave me such a fright, I thought you was the ghost of a minute. Can't you sit? Sit you down, sit. All I meant is that I haven't seen a customer for weeks. Did you come in for a pie, sir?
I did also want to note from the scene too, of course vampires would have a whole crusade that led to some symbolic night and shit. That's always something. This is like the prophecy Giles found out and Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. He's once again coming to Buffy to get in the way of her life. This time obviously it's different versus like, her dating in that one, but legit he about to get her kicked out of school for sure, because he comes in hot with this and she's like, and getting kicked out of school is laughs aplenty. Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, Giles, you got to understand, you got to like balance this stuff. Buffy's got this stuff going on, and you as her watcher probably know about the conversation that Snyder's had with her, so you also need to be helping her with her P's and Q's, because he said several episodes ago, what the puppet show, he's like, we got Snyder out here watching us, so we need to be careful, but yet you put Buffy in this position. Thank God your friends are about to help you. That's all I'm saying. At least everybody up in there whittling stakes for this bitch.
At least y'all are somewhat prepared.
I'm glad that Sheila popped in when she did, because Buffy was about to be fucked twice in 5 minutes with this information, and then Snyder and everybody else. I was like, Buffy's expelled right now. We cut to that night at the Bronze as the band Nickel performs their song 1000 Nights, and Willow and Buffy are at the table practicing French, which Buffy is not nailing and saying things wrong, noting maybe she's distracted since Angel seems amiss. Willow says as such. Xander comes up to tell them that they need to come dance with him since he's all alone, reminding me of whenever he bumped into Cordelia in that one episode, and she's like, you better get the fuck off the dance floor before what's-her-face's boyfriend squashes you like a bug. I guess that was the Angel, because it was the fumigation party episode.
But also I needed to point out, why would you be trying to study at the Bronze? No.
Best of both worlds. Like I said, my ADD self would not have been able to do that, because
Ain't
one, I
no
would have gotten
damn
distracted.
way.
Like,
No, I'm like, I think she just canceled out the fact that she was so serious about not getting kicked out of school to Giles, and then she goes to the Bronze and tries to study. I'm like, you're not really proving your point here.
Xander comes up, obviously, like I said, to tell them that they need to come dance with him since he's all alone, saying that they can take a break from studying the 5 minutes of it that they've been doing. And Buffy's like, no wonder my brain's fried. She grabs Willow and they go out onto the floor to dance. And I felt Willow was probably like, I know what happens when Buffy drags friends out onto the dance floor. I'm
Thought
like,
the same thing.
no. The band at this point starts their song Stupid Thing. Such a vibe of a song. And I like this transition because as they go out onto the floor, we reveal Spike walking up to their table watching them. And as they dance, the focus is on Buffy as Spike slowly stalks behind them, walking through the bronze, taking his first glimpses of the Slayer. He takes this in, then moves over to the vamps there with him, ordering one of them to go get something, aka someone, to eat. And he walks over to the dance floor to loudly call out, "Where's the phone? There's some guy out here trying to bite someone." And Buffy overhears this obviously and flees towards the door as he smirks. This scene is very predatory in my eyes. Spike is using a different tactic than any other vampire that we've seen so far with the Slayer. He is aiming to study her, get a sense of her fighting style as well, because of what we see in just a couple moments. But he's seen here using some strategy. And every time I watch this, putting myself in the mindset of first-time viewer, I love this scene because I actually feel some sense of dread and worry for like what's about to occur because of the fact that he's out here stalking her like this, like true prey. That's why I called it a predatory act, the pack. But I like how he's playing this in her to his advantage, because this would like make him, in your first impression, seemingly a worthy adversary to Buffy, because every other vampire just basically either attacks or she's out trying to find them. So he's obviously heard of her and has been instructed to kill her, but he's, unlike some other people that he's dating, practicing due diligence. Flashing to outside as the vampire that Spike sent out is attacking a girl, getting ready to bite her, Buffy's arm grabbing him and throwing him aside.
Slay.
Slay ye.
The two begin to fight as Xander and Willow run up, and she instructs them to get her out of there and to bring her a steak as she just repeatedly smashes her fist into that vampire's face. And we hear 7 blows. I counted them because I was flashing back to when she was bad, when she was fighting that dummy thing, thinking that was the master in her head. Damn, she's just like taking out some aggression. Spike in the background is obviously watching her pummel him, and inside the bronze, I like this scene because we get Xander running up to her purse and he pulls out her yo-yo. She's still got that damn yo-yo. I love it. I like his natural reaction for boys to do this over girl implemented things. When he grabs the tampon that he sees, it skeezes him out and he like drops it and like he gets all flustered and flails, and then he keeps on fumbling through her bag and then finally finds her steak. No matter
Very
what,
typical.
no matter what, I always fucking love that part of the scene. Outside, she's still dueling the vamp as he attempts to close in on Buffy, saying he doesn't need to wait for St. Vigius. She's his now. Buffy kicks him in the face, "No, her foot's yours," as he calls out for Spike to give him a hand. Xander calls her name, tosses her the steak, and she slays the vampire, and we get the full 2K per slay because he disappears on the screen. As he dissipates, we see Spike appear in the space that he does from the shadows, telling her, "Nice work, love." She asks who he is. He informs that she will find out on Saturday, her replying, "What happens on Saturday?" And he just ominously says,
I kill you.
then he just walks off the screen. Where did he walk off to? Like, just walk into the alley and leave? Being a Slayer, why wouldn't you just chase after him? But they got to build up and do all this other stuff, so I'm going to leave that where it is.
It was giving me a lot of Master, and I kind of felt myself almost defensive for the Master because I was like, no, 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 no. We've already had this energy before. Like, we don't need another one. We don't need a repeat. Like, this has already happened. You should already know. Because I'm like, first off, we need to do the one test of all tests, which is put Spike in a river of blood and see if he comes out repellent or not, because then we'll know what's going to happen to Spike.
Oh my fucking god. This damn blood pool is never getting old.
It's never gonna die.
Courtney's gonna be like season 5's big bad jump in the pool of blood. Just, you can't be a big bad if you don't repel the blood.
The next one, are we gonna do another like reaction video for this season's finale? Because I'll just come dressed in blood. I'll have a fruit punch mouth.
I probably would. I can't say anything. There's going to be a few episodes that we get together for, though, where I record some reactions from you, though, because they're going to be much needed, and our listeners, viewers, all that stuff are going to want to know. But yeah, Spike's here to fuck shit up, and he doesn't have to worry about repelling blood because he's going to be sucking it up, aka in the form of Slayers. He's like, "You'll be number 3.
We'll see.
We cut to Sheila walking out of the bronze with two guys that she's interested in, but amongst attempting to peace out with them, they're taken one by one, leaving her there alone. Then she bumps into Spike, who plays Mr. Cool with her, stating that those guys were losers, which he obviously quickly killed and discarded, and stating that she's got something better, aka him. And she willingly follows after him because she just loves these bad boy types, aka rest in peace, Sheila. I like the setup of it because she's walking with these bad guys, and then all of a sudden they just disappear off the screen. She looks to the right and she's like, hey, where'd you go? And then she looks to the left and like the other one's gone. I was like, ah, fuck. Like watching this the very first time, I was like, what happened? And then obviously once she walks off with Spike, we see the two just laying there. How quickly can a vampire suck blood from somebody and kill them and drain them? Because he took the first one out while they're walking, and this all happened within a set of like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's very interesting. And Sheila's walking off to her death, as we'll see. In the library, Giles has been told of the night's events, and he's questioning the fact of the other vampire called the man Spike before Buffy slayed him. They ponder their looming attack, now pairing it with St. Vigius. Willow and Xander questioning how maybe they should flee. Willow stating if this Spike guy is leading the attack, Giles saying that he can't be any worse than any other creature Buffy's faced. And then we get the call out from Angel entering the room and stating he's worse, adding once he starts something, he doesn't stop until everything in his path is dead. What did you think about Angel walking in and saying he's worse? Like actually confirming that Spike's some serious.
Yeah, I mean, I figured with the kind of energy that they already set up around his character that he wasn't going to just be this like one episode dude. He's not going to be dying anytime soon. I definitely figured he came loaded with some history that probably wasn't going to be great as far as like in Buffy's favor is concerned. The element that surprised me most was that the way that Angel behaved was almost slightly anxious around it. He added the layer of seriousness, I think, to it that I needed. I think that where Giles was immediately, no, forget the PTA, forget your whole entire life around high school. This is utmost importance. We've got to deal with this, like, or we're all probably going to die. I feel like I finally got that through Angel being like, no, actually, here's the deets on this motherfucker, and he ain't no damn joke. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, it definitely sets it up. I like the reveal we get that Angel knows this guy, and then that just makes like you said, it makes it more representative of the serious vibes that we have to get. Giles brings the convo back to urgent matters, and Buffy saying like keeping her mom from Snyder the next night, Jenny adding and not dying Saturday. Damn, this whole week is just fucked. Giles attempting to ask Angel if he knows if Spike goes by any other name, but they catch the door moving as he's already left the room, and Xander exclaiming,
Okay, that's it. I'm putting a collar with a little bell on that guy.
I was laughing. As per usual, Angel giving a half-assed cryptic message and then dipping. I thought we were over this because we got those vibes in season 1. I thought he was here for more Buffy, but I also was curious why he just turned around and left the room too. He literally just left. And I'm like, bro, you could have like literally gave them so much more context, but I guess he wanted them to find out the information himself.
No, he went to go get ice cream or something probably.
He said, Willow, come on. Well, where there's not ice cream, we flash over to the factory, and these motherfuckers are upstairs chanting as we are below the ground, passing by several dolls with their mouths bound by ribbon as the childlike music begins to play again, which we will call Drusilla's theme. Because it's always playing when she's around. We see Drusilla turn one of them around to face the wall, saying, Miss Edith the doll speaks out of turn. She is a bad example and will have no cakes today. I'm like, oh my god, this bitch is crazy. This is why I love the character of Drusilla, because she's literally not in her mind. And she's sitting here whispering to these damn dolls. And in front of Sheila at that, Sheila's over here, like, before we notice that she's in the scene, like, she's whispering to the dolls. She's like, shh. And I'm like, girl, they're dolls. What are you talking about? This bitch is unhinged. And then Spike comes up to ask if she's going to eat, but Drew isn't hungry. She says that she misses Prague. They drop how a mob nearly killed her. He tells her the Hellmouth is the place for them. It will restore her, and she concludes that in a few weeks' time, the stars will align and smile down upon them. They move over to lay in bed together, mentioning how the town will then burn. She tells him he should go up there and make merry with them so that they can trust him. And then she just sits up and starts grabbing her hair, saying, sometimes I think all my hair will fall out and I'll be bald. What are you talking about? I love it though. Spike, noticing her distress, says that he will go up and get chancy with the fellas, but she better eat something in return. Pushing a tied up and gagged Sheila over to her, she spins Sheila to face the dolls, telling Miss Edith, if you had been good, you could have watched with the rest. Showing us the back of the doll's head facing the fucking wall and all the other dolls looking back at them. Oh, hell. And then we pan back to her standing by Sheila, who looks over to her vampire face, and she just like aggressively attacks her neck. And I was like, ooh, scary stuff.
She's completely fucking unhinged to me, and I'm just like, what is her trauma? You know what I mean? Obviously, she got some clear childhood trauma with all these dolls and everything. There's like a big kid element going on here. I'm like, does she think she's the kid? Like, I'm so confused. And yeah, I don't know. This bitch is weird AF. Like, she gives me the wigs.
Yeah, they seem a little bit naive and like more impulsive
Immature.
in their nature
Yeah.
whenever it comes to that. Well, we cut to the next day. It's parent teacher night. So says the painted banner by Buffy and her friends hanging at the school front. Still earlier in the evening before sunset, in the library, the gang are fashioning Buffy's weaponry like they said they would be doing. Even Cordelia is here creating steaks for Buffy while she chops vegetables for snacks with a machete. That poor cucumber, because she doesn't even slice it like Kendall Jenner. I don't know if you've seen those memes and those jokes about Kendall Jenner. Look it up on YouTube.
I'm doing it. Oh, God.
Kendall Jenner attempts to cut a cucumber on the latest episode of The Kardashians.
Do you want the chef to make you a snack?
I'm making it myself. Just gotta chop up some cucumber.
Bad idea.
Okay.
You go, girl.
But when she sets up for slicing, her awkward prep has Chris calling for help.
I'm kind of scared.
There you go.
Don't cucumbers have seeds? Oh, yeah.
What?
I'm not a good cutter, so don't zoom in on me.
We don't need to even zoom in, honey. You're doing it wrong.
Hey, chef, you want to cut this up for her?
Yes, please call the chef. That is absolutely bizarre.
But listen, this is the moment that made me think of that. I just remember seeing it on the internet and dying laughing at that shit. Buffy's way worse. Like, Kendall Jenner is doing so much better than Buffy did in this moment because Buffy's just like fucking hacking at the table. But when you see the tray later, it's medallions and everything's cut up perfectly. Like, she took the time as a
She got
fucking
that tray
executive
from
chef.
Publix.
Harris Teeter.
The Harris Teeter. No,
Oh.
at Lowe's Foods, where they play our favorite song.
Welcome to New York. Poor Buffy and this poor cucumber. I also want to point out too, Willow's over here whenever we get the pan of her pointing the damn crossbow around and Giles comes up and lowers it. And I was like, Willow, you about to fucking shoot somebody in the eyeball over here trying to act like you got something in your eye. Like,
Damn it, that's what I was about to say.
well, obviously we are the same person. Giles talking about the St. Vigius event on Saturday, and Xander commenting on how does anyone remember when Saturday used to mean date night. And I love how Cordelia takes the moment to insult him and be like, hey, you sure don't. And I'm like, oh. This version of Cordelia is where I really like her because she's still a smart ass and kind of rude, but in a new form. She's nicer, she's helping out the group and stuff, but she just still makes her remarks. And this is just the Cordelia that we get. It's like you get what you get with her. Buffy apparently has everything checked off her list, but forgot to do the punch, and she runs off to go do that. I also wanted to note too, I didn't last episode at all do any Buffy fashion watch, but in this one, Cordy's hair right here, I love her little simple twist pinup, but I love the little side pieces that are like accentuating her bangs and face framing that's going on. And they also pulled down like a couple little pieces from her neckline. It's very chic, but also like modernized in that way too. As a hairdresser, I love it.
I feel like I actually put a fashion watch for this in my notes too, because the dress, I forgot that those were like a thing that people were actually regularly wearing in the 90s at some point, and it really brought back, especially like you just said with her hair. I feel like when you wore that dress, you had to do your hair like that. You know what I mean? It was almost like the thing that went together. So she just like encompassed this whole like 90s era of fashion in this scene for me. And I was just like, holy shit, way to bring it back.
Yes, very 90s. Well, the evening progresses and we find Buffy filling up drink cups from her punch bowl. Willow coming over to ask what kind of punch Buffy made. Her stating lemonade. She made it fresh and everything, handing Willow a cup. Her asking how much sugar did she use. Buffy questioning,
Sugar?
as Willow sips it. Her not seeing Willow's grossed out face, spit the drink back in the cup as she says it's ravishing.
It's very good.
It's giving Rachel with that meat trifle. Honestly, I die every single time Willow's face when she sips that fucking drink.
I love that, like, the most unsuspecting thing ended up adding, like, a new dilemma in the night because then it became, like, Willow's mission to stop every single person that was even thinking about taking a drink from that lemonade. She was like, "Ah, no, don't do it, don't do it."
um, we see Joyce walk around the corner as Buffy speaks on needing to divert her from Snyder's path all night. Joyce is impressed Buffy did all this, and she offers her mom some lemonade, and Willow's back there trying to shake her head and be like, no, 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 no. She's like, it ruins positive energy. Snyder is seen taking notice to them. Buffy tells her, no time for lemonade. Willow needs to show you the library. And I was like, thank fucking God, you're so safe, Joyce. But we can't go there because of the fake study session that's going down in there right now, aka weapon prep. French class is apparently where the move is because Willow drags Joyce off as Snyder comes to ask, was that your mom? And she's like, oh, yeah, it was. But, it's okay, actually. She doesn't speak a word of English. So he didn't miss much by not talking to her. And he walks off. We get a glimpse also of the clock passing a couple of hours ahead. Cordelia approaches Buffy about how they're all slaving away in the library. Loud as fuck, by the way. She also takes this time to comment on Buffy looking slagged, asking if she just skips foundation entirely in her makeup routine. I'm like, Cordelia, come on now. Like, I know I was just praising you in the library about your slight snark, but now you're just out here being snarky and full-fledged. Buffy smarts back about how she has a lot going on right now. And then Cordelia loves her mom's look because she takes notice to Joyce. And honestly, same, because the top that Joyce has on is a vibe. I love the patterns in the high neck and like the way it's like flowy too. It accentuates Joyce's hair more than anything because her hair has grown immensely since the start of season 1 because she had a really short, like cropped haircut.
Totally.
I also really like the comment that Cordelia makes right whenever Cordelia notices Joyce because she's like,
Now that is a woman that knows how to moisturize. Did it like skip a generation?
oh shit, you can see that from across the room. I wouldn't expect anything more from Cordelia but to know that.
Yeah.
Well, Willow and her come over. Joyce comments on how she's seen the whole campus by now, and miraculously, each and every of her teachers have stepped out just as she arrives to their rooms. Sadly, at this point for Buffy, Snyder finally catches up with this bitch and directs her to his office because they need to talk right now about her daughter. Buffy notating he didn't look very happy. Willow adding, she did such a good job, though. Oh, she did, Willow. We know this. But Snyder's a dick. And Cordelia's like, when they're done talking, her guess is that 10th high school reunion, she'll still be grounded. I'm like, damn. Sorry. Buffy looks at her in horror, Willow telling Cordelia to have some lemonade. Willow's like, fuck off, Cordelia. It was giving deliver,
Mm-hmm. Very much.
And then she walks off to go do as such. She like looks happy about it too. She's like, ooh. And then leaves off. I'm like, oh hell, I wish we could have got that scene. Unsuspecting Cordelia. It's foul Willow play, but I love it. Back in the library, Giles finally finds info on Spike, telling Xander and Jenny he is known as William the Bloody, an unpleasant nickname earned by torturing his victims with railroad spikes. Eek. Giles calls it good news that he's barely 200, not even as old as Angel, and then gives a low vibrational uh-oh, and Xander comments on the bad look on his face. Giles tells him their suggestion on running away by Saturday might have been a good one.
Spike has forged 2 slayers in the last century, and he's killed them both.
That made me super nervous, especially because we're going to safely assume Buffy is going to slay her way through every single thing. But when you hear stuff like this, it's the same nervousness that you get when you're like approaching the day that she has to go face to face with the master, and you know that's coming and it's dooming, and it could be this one thing that's like the end all be all. So it's just setting up another moment like that where I'm just like, can we have like 6 episodes without a moment like this?
No, because the stakes are always high in the life of the Slayer. I think that's intense as fuck that he's already killed 2 Slayers. This just changes the game for everyone. There has not been any other person that we've heard of that's killed the Slayer. This puts a whole new danger element out there because they have a vampire show up who just looks at Buffy and is like, I kill you on Saturday, and then just leaves. And then she's like left there being like, okay, well then why don't you just do it just now? But obviously he's somebody that likes to build the suspense. So
Well, and you brought up a good point about his strategy because it's almost like he did the whole predatory thing where he has the advantage and he took his time to kind of be able to not just like observe her in a neutral setting, but he set her up to basically fight in front of him so he knows what kind of tactics that she goes in with, and he has that advantage. And then like you said, he put a threat out there. So instead of just either killing her on the spot or not showing himself at all, because he didn't have to, technically. He could have just left and just watched from the sidelines and been like, dipped out. No one knows any better that I'm here or not. And he just wants to play this mental game too. If
Mm.
he's like trying to make you vulnerable and filled with anxiety and fear, so that way he has like two advantages now, because now he's like, oh, I know what you're about, and now I'm here threatening you, and now you got to worry for 3 days or whatever,
Yeah.
and
No,
yeah,
he's
like that.
changing the game, which I say this is why I say Spike's a big player in the show right now at
True.
this time, especially because, with the fact that he's killed two before, he probably used similar tactics to stalk the other Slayers. But I feel like this time with Buffy, he's getting a different taste because of the fact that he made that comment to put that impending doom in her mind. She's got this parent teacher night, and then now this new danger coming in. Like, it's just a
Totally.
lot to handle at one time. And the fact that he's killed Slayers before, that just adds a whole nother level there.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally like now she just has to walk through her even just preparing for this with that added layer of anxiety. At least the master was just like a pussy ass bitch who was sending everyone above ground to do his bidding for him, you know what I mean? And then like that's it. But yeah, he's scary.
Well, it helps build for the next scene because Snyder and Joyce have finished their talk in his office, and Joyce comes up to Buffy to say, "Get in the car. We're leaving." Ah, fuck. She exchanges bummed looks with Willow. Snyder is behind her looking all fucking happy, and I want to punch his ass in the face because he's just got the smuggest face. Snyder, you need to get killed by a vampire right now.
So I'm like, doesn't the amount of students that increase like as like expulsion cases, doesn't that look bad on you as the principal? I'm like, why are you so happy to do this? Does this not actually make you look bad, like you're incapable? You know what
No,
I
I think it makes it look like because of a certain student's record, it makes him look like he's actually purging the school of the things that doesn't need to be there or
I
toxic
see.
behavior. So it makes it seem
Mhm.
like he's helping, successfully create a thriving environment for education. But that's not the case.
I
He's also not saying the same shit that he's clearly stating to Giles all the time,
yeah.
like about him hating students and look at them fucking vermin running around the school and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, not at all. But whatever. And then this motherfucker, speaking of his dumbass self, he starts cutting off all the lights in the room. And this has always driven me crazy because people are still sitting in the lounge when he goes over there and flips off the light switch. I mean, he didn't even look at them and be like, "Hey, you guys, we're heading out. Like, the PTA stuff's over. Let's clear from this area." Even if you're not like shutting the whole school down right this moment, you're just shutting that room light
I
off.
know.
Like, tell people to move away from the area like the night's
And
over.
he's the one who was like so big on making sure everything was flawless and perfect. And I'm like, and then you're gonna ruin it by being like, all right, fuck off.
Exactly. I think it is also to make it more intense because obviously, as he shuts the light off, we get the pan of the big window frame that's sitting right there as the glass shatters and vampires crash through it, being led by Spike into the school, looking to Buffy standing there with Joyce behind her, and Spike commenting to Buffy, "What can I say? I couldn't wait." And I was like, oh shit, Spike and Aries, he couldn't wait for this shit. Back in the day when you're watching this with commercials, you see that cut and like Buffy's horror on her face, and all of a sudden it cuts to commercial, and you got to wait 3 minutes before the episode comes back in.
That
So
would
you're like,
kill me.
you're on edge, you're suspenseful, you're like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Um, we cut back into the scene and they run at Buffy. She tosses a chair at Spike, knocking them back as she grabs Joyce to run off. All exits blocked. Buffy guides people to follow her. She has Joyce by hand and she is making sure her mom is safe as fuck this episode. Very good daughter. Spike screaming, "Nobody gets out, especially the girl," grabbing a teacher as hostage. Buffy slings a janitor car at some vampires as Willow and Cordy run by, and a vamp grabs Cordy. Willow picks up that heavy ass statue and takes charge because like we haven't really seen Willow in this position before, and she smacks the fuck out that vampire with that big ass sculpture made of like some kind of hard porcelain or clay or something,
Hell yeah.
and beats his ass down with it. And it obviously helps them get into the storage closet to hide, aka where they'll remain till the sun comes up the next day. Giles and Jenny and Xander appear out of the library, calling out what the hell has happened as they can hear everybody running and screaming in the hallways. And Buffy screams at Giles that it's Spike and his army and to look out. As the vampires start to surround them, they run back into the library, barricading the door. Buffy ushers the group she has, including Snyder, her mom, and some other random teachers, into a nearby room. They start barricading those doors as the lights go out. And I just want to put out points for amazingness in barricadation because season one, we did not see some good barricades. And now people have learned how to keep people out because they're actually putting the right, correct things in front of doors. And
You're right.
as they start barricading, the lights go out, and a vampire lets Spike know that they've cut the power, and he asks where the Slayer went, but the vampire didn't really see, and Spike gets angry, and he looks to his hostage, telling him that he's a veal kind of guy, and he is too old to eat, and then just breaks his neck. He's not too old to kill, though. This makes Spike feel better, because he was feeling pretty upset about this whole situation of not knowing where Buffy was. Giles tries to call for help, realizing that they also have cut the phone lines, and he tells Xander that he can escape through the stacks to go out and get Angel since he knows about Spike. They need him. He doesn't want to, not knowing if Buffy and Willow are okay, and Giles persists that none of them will be okay if he doesn't go get fucking help. And thankfully, this convinces Xander, because I was like, all right, Xander, your heroism can be great in this moment, but you need to do what you're told. I know you can be there to help defend some stuff because you obviously are always like right in the mix with fighting, but quit wasting time and get the fuck out the door when you're given an order. Like,
Totally.
ugh. In the room with Buffy, a teacher's asking about the attackers, and Joyce comments about like something being wrong with their faces, and Xander clarifies it's definitely a gang on PCP. Apparently this is like a hallucinogenic drug, and I was like, PCP got to be a lot stronger probably than shrooms or acid or anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Like let one of these PCP people actually like get fed on by Spike, and he ain't gonna just be watching his hand move anymore. Watching the world move. Snyder attempts to climb up to a window to open it, and Buffy tells him that he can't go out there, they will kill him, and him yelling back at her, you don't tell me, I tell you, and she snatches his ass down. Slow clap for everyone. And then she tells him that they will kill everyone, nobody leaves in or out until she says so. And I like this moment because she takes charge, and he's like, who the fuck do you think you are? And she's like, I'm the one who knows how to deal with these people. I love how he like immediately stops questioning her. Buffy looks to the ceiling, walking off as if to leave, her mom grabbing her to say, Buffy, are you crazy? Saying she knows that she's been accused of fighting and other things, but these guys are serious and she can't go out there. And she's like, I know, that's why I'm going up there. And motions to the roof, climbing up into it, telling Joyce not to worry. And I love how she like put a chair on the desk and like climbed up into the thing, because she's like, I can't just shoot up there like I normally would. Let me see my fucking, cat-like reflexes to show my Slayer strength. But I like right here too the trust that Joyce, I about to say the trust that Joyce displays. This statement, some sort of like innate trust that Joyce has towards Buffy. It's almost like she can sense that Buffy knows what she's talking about without having to say too much, because like I said, she lets her get up and go out there and obviously stay out there for this whole
Totally,
time.
yeah, because I at first was like, there ain't no damn way this bitch is gonna let her go just like that. She's gonna be like, I don't think so. I don't think you're doing anything.
Real, especially
But yeah.
well, her high has worn off, and she's like, my vacation's out in the lounge in my bag, so I can't toke up real quick to make this situation a little bit more relaxed. So she's completely sober by this point with all the alertness. And I don't know, I just like the fact that Buffy displays a certain type of courage and a special vibe that leads Joyce to obviously trust her in this moment.
Yeah, I think it's Buffy's level of like authority too. You can kind of tell that she's like, it's not like she's being demanding with her mom in any way. She's just like very much assertive. Like you said, she shows that she should be confident in her ability to like handle the situation. So inevitably she does.
Yeah, no, and it bodes well for Buffy in the end. Like,
Mhm.
and we'll get there when we get there. Out in the hall, Spike is calling Slayer like she's a dog who will come running. And then I was like, oh, I guess I mean a cat, because he says, here, kitty, kitty, 2 seconds later. He also screams out if he finds one of her friends that he's going to suck them dry and will use their bones to bash her head in. I was like, ew, the imagery. He starts kicking down doors, almost at the one that Willow and Cordelia are in. And I'm like, and Cordelia is obviously inside freaking out as Willow covers her mouth because she's like, oh God, oh God, oh God. This moment is paused because the vampire screams out at Spike and is like, listen, like the second that it might have been too late, his foot was literally like 1 inch away from kicking that fucking door in where Willow and Cordelia were in, and distracted him. He directs Spike to let him know that someone is in the ceiling, and that's what Spike says.
Someone's in the ceiling.
In the library, Giles has grabbed weapons and is starting to leave out, taking down the barricade, and Jenny's like telling him that he can't. There's vampires out in that hall, and he's professing that he is her watcher and he is responsible for Buffy and that he must go. I love this display right here because I was like, this man is always going to be ride or die for his Slayer. He's like, I'm just as much liable in this situation as she is. I've got to make sure not only is she safe, but if she gets killed out here by this guy that's killed 2 other Slayers, then I have to be the one to like take charge, even if I know I'm going to die 2 seconds later. Somebody's got to try to help put a stop to it. She still tries to get him to stop, but then quickly realizes his position, and she just tells him to be careful. He starts to remove the barricade. Buffy crashes in through the ceiling, and he almost chops her head off with the damn axe that he's holding. He picks it up to swing at her, and she's like, ah! It's like, oh shit, it's just Buffy. And then she informs Giles that in the science room across the hall, it's holding people and her mom, and not really sure what happened to Willow and Cordelia. And Giles tells her that Xander's gone to get Angel, and she's like, good, we're going to need him. And she also tells him that she's going to go out there and take care of the vampires in the hall, and she collects some of her weapons that she'll need. And I was like, thank God she's got some stuff on deck now, back there to get her resources. and lets him know that he needs to get her mom and others out before anything. And he wants to help her, but she's like, no, if I don't make it out of here, you need to make sure my mom does. He agrees her leaving to go. She's going to set them up and take them down one by one. Back in the science room, Snyder is pissing Joyce off with his pacing, and the teacher saying he's not waiting, moving to try to open the windows. And Joyce is like, don't be an idiot. And Snyder's like snidely telling Joyce in this moment that he's beginning to see a certain mother-daughter resemblance. And I was like, oh, I was like, she tries again to tell the teacher. She's like, you heard what Buffy said. And I'm like, Joyce, you need to envelop this energy more often for like having trust in your daughter, because right now you're sensing danger. You know your daughter's going to take care of it in some way, shape, or form. She tries again to tell the teacher that they heard what Buffy said. Snyder calls out to her not knowing anything and that Buffy's just a student and moves to help him. Thank God from her interaction with this man, because Joyce here notices that he's just a spiteful little arrogant twat. No matter what he said in the school, I think this moment right here, Snyder is giving her something to be like, your reflection of my daughter is posing like a manipulated like mindset for yourself. Yes. So I think that this is what aided the ending for her, because his comment to her had to have played a huge part in her words with Buffy later. Out in the halls, Spike slams a vamp's head into a glass case to get an axe so he can chop down the solid door to the room. He's like, use your head. Damn, I'd be scared of him, because if I was that vamp, Spike just out here in the halls, like when the camera pans over, Spike's just leaning against there watching the vampire like beat the door down, and whenever he finally takes notice of Spike, he's like, use your head, and then fucking bashes his head into the damn case. And I'm like, so me type vibe. Like I would be so frustrated with somebody. Inside, they get the window open of the classroom, and the teacher goes to try to climb out of it, and a vampire grabs him, eating him, ripping him through it as Joyce seals the window back shut. And I was like, and Joyce is over here looking at Snyder and come out, see? We're getting all these cutscenes. Spike hears movement in the ceiling again, and we get a shot of Buffy moving in it as we pan outside of Xander and Angel arriving to find the teacher's dead body out on the lawn. Xander commenting to Angel how he knows a lot about the Spike guy, so what's the plan? Angel grabs him by the neck and his shirt, and he's moving towards the entrance, talking about like, good plan. And Xander's like, fuck. And we get a flash to the closet containing Cordelia and Willow as she's saying that they could come back when Cordy goes to open the door, and it's sounding like they've moved on. But what are we going to do? Cordy asks, and Willow's like, pray. Buffy moves through the ceiling as Spike picks up metal bars from the windows that they broke through, tossing one over to a vamp, and they start poking holes in the ceiling, almost hitting Buffy. I was like, oh shit, but this is the scene that kind of gives you the Die Hard vibes. But she moves back and starts like moving away from it. And honestly, in the scene of her crawling through the fucking ceiling, I was thinking about her when she was crawling through the ceiling to get to Marcy's little like pad that she had up in the ceiling.
Lair.
I was like watching her move. I was like, oh, if you take a left turn right here, you get to Marcy's old room. But that shit was scary too. When I was younger and I was watching this, I was thinking like there was gonna be a scene where that like went through Buffy's arm and it injured her, or like hit her leg or something like that. Bitch about to get impaled. That's how she's gonna die, just be dead up in the ceiling with Marcy. The vampire is almost in the room that he's been hacking down at the axe that Spike got him, telling another vamp that he in the adjacent hall to guard that door because he's almost in. He swings at the door once more, but Buffy crashes through the ceiling onto him, staking him in one motion. And we get the off-screen deaths because we hear the noises. I like how we see like Joyce looking through the little hole in the door, and Buffy's hand just like raises up with a stake. And I'm like, Joyce had to have seen this. Like, what are you doing? Like, how? What? I don't know what's going on. But she looks through the hole and asks if Buffy's okay, and she clearly is, and tells her mom to hold on just one more minute till she tells her that she can open the door. She moves towards the other vamp in the adjacent hall, getting spooked by Sheila behind her, who tells her that she's late, and there's some really weird guys outside. I was like, Sheila, you ain't fooling nobody. But Buffy lets her know that she is aware and they're trying to kill us. And Sheila bends down to grab the axe that vampire had, and she's like, this should be fun. And I was like, oh, fuck no. The last scene that we saw Sheila in, she was getting eaten up by Drusilla. So the fact that she's standing here right now, you automatically are clued in.
Yeah, no. And I was definitely praying for Buffy in that moment. I was like, oh, I hope she is so much more aware than I think she is right now, because this bitch could just like chop your head off right now.
Hell yeah,
like,
that axe could be
and she's walking behind you. I would have at least been like, you go ahead first.
Sheila about to come out and be like, Spike, I killed a Slayer too. With an axe.
She'd have to come out and look with Buffy's head and be like, look, it's hereditary.
And there's our hereditary drop for School Hard. I love it. We cut over to Spike. Angel and Vamp Pace appears behind him with Xander grappled under his arm in a headlock. Spike sees him and greets him, and jealous. I'll be damned. The two hugged, him telling Spike that he's always taught him to guard his perimeter. And he got in, so obviously he didn't do it right. And he informs that he did, but he's surrounded by idiots. Asking if he's come up against this slayer yet, Angel tells him that she's cute but not too bright, saying that he gave the puppy dog a tortured act. It keeps him off his back while he feeds, and the two share a laugh, and Xander's gritting through his teeth. And at this moment, too, like, this is probably got to be a slap in the face for Xander, but also the best thing for, like, I told you so in his head, because he's like, I knew you were lying, undead liar guy. And then he exposes Xander's neck and asks Spike if he wants to have a bite before they kill the Slayer. Cutting back over to Buffy telling Sheila to stay behind her. We see her behind Buffy, though, and she is a vampire. And I love the shadows on the wall of the scene as Buffy's walking forward and Sheila's behind her with the axe. It almost kind of gives those Nosferatu vibes, too, where the creepy shadow of the fingers are on the wall and stuff. I just like it. It's very eerie, and it's good cinematography in my eyes. But I also wanted to pose out the option, too, here, because I was like, would vampires even have a shadow if they don't cast a reflection? But I was like, I guess so, because I get the reflective mirror state, but a shadow is cast when a light hits an object. So as long as it's three-dimensional, it's going to pose a shadow no matter what the object is.
Yeah.
But I got in my head about it for like 5 minutes watching the episode.
Well, I did the same thing earlier because Drusilla was like talking about how she's cold. And I was like, do vampires get cold?
I know, right? Like, they're literally dead.
I'm like, what do you mean, bitch? Aren't you always cold?
You'd think, because their skin is not pumping with blood. I don't know, though. They feast on blood and they get warm blood put into their system, which I think animates them, because if a vampire went a really long time without feeding, they would probably, I wouldn't say shrivel up, but they would get weakened in a state, because the blood is what keeps them energized. So I would say that once the blood gets into their system, maybe it reactivates their like systems moving the same way. Obviously, their lungs and start aren't pumping and their heart isn't pumping in the same way. But I
You
think
would
it
just
does
think
something
that's
for
so
them.
like temporary. That's like us eating food, you know what I mean? And starts going and stuff like that. So I felt like it was like the equivalent for them. So I was just like, don't they ever, I guess if they feel warm, is it only when they've eaten? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, so many questions. But for some reason the first like reflex thought was, do vampires even get cold? Like, what is she talking about?
All right, great.
We love to be technical about the vamp facts.
If you guys can hear lawnmowers going, people are cutting grass outside, so super sorry.
I can hear it now.
It should be done in a little bit. Enjoy the background noise. Let's see, where are we? Casting shadows. Giles, through the library door window, sees Sheila raising the axe behind Buffy, screaming out at her, and she spins around to avoid the axe swing that Sheila's about to give her, taking it from Sheila and knocking her back, swinging it around to the other vampire, who ducks, and it pops back up to smile. Like, he's like happy that she missed her attack, but then he looks down and the stakes in him, and he like turns to dust, and we get another one of those kind of like bowling ball Darla killing the three dirt flying up things, because as soon as the body drops to the floor, we see all the like dust like shoot up from the ground.
It was the $100 per sleigh.
Buffy looks over to Sheila in this moment, and I love the look on Buffy's face when she just looks at Sheila like, you see what I just fucking did? And Sheila backs away scared as fuck of her, which obviously should be doing, and she runs out of the building. Buffy runs over to the door telling her mom and the others to come out now. They flee across the hall into the library with Giles, Buffy saying that she will join them in a minute. Joy stressed out, calling her name as she runs off. She's like, bye, Mom. Over with Angel, Spike is saying how it's been ages since he's seen him in the killing field, asking why he's so scared of this Slayer. In a past time, he would have taken her out in a heartbeat, asking if this torture thing is really an act. Angel, quick on his feet, says that he saw her kill the master, but if Spike thinks he can take her alone, then be his guest, he will just feed and run. Spike stopping him to say, no, we are all friends here. Let's drink to it together. Both leaning into Xander's neck, but Spike stops and punches Angel, telling him he thinks that Angel can fool him, telling him, you were my sire, man, my Yoda. And then we get this huge ass reveal.
That is insane. That's almost as insane as the Darla Angel connection. Like, what? I wonder then if Angel feels like even more responsible to keep Buffy safe, because this is like his product or whatever, or like his doing, or you know?
Yeah, he's like,
Like if it wasn't for him, then Spike wouldn't exist. So of course, like he probably feels like secondhand guilt like over the situation. So now he's probably like, what the fuck did I make?
If anything, it's just another layer to the curse that he's been placed on him, so that way he could feel the torment and pain that he had caused for centuries, so that way he would be like having a conscience again, and obviously that causes him to not feed on humans anymore and all this other stuff, because all those like subconscious things come into his awareness. He's like, fuck, like I've done all this horrible stuff. So this just adds that extra layer, like you're saying, to be like, ah, shit, if I hadn't done this in my past, I wouldn't be paying for it now. And this could be like, if Buffy gets killed by Spike, then this is technically directly because of myself.
Yeah, like it's karma.
Yeah, I like the fact that you're taking notice to it as a first-time viewer. That's awesome. Angel states that things change. Him and the vamps move to attack them as Angel and Xander just run out the door. I was like, that was cute. They just turn around and leave together. But then Spike and his gang try to run after them, but then Spike stops dead in his tracks.
𝒑𝒂𝒓𝒏𝒕. I smell the blood of a nice, ripe girl.
Turning around to see Buffy standing there behind him wielding the axe, asking him, do we really need weapons for this? And he tells her he just likes them because they make him feel all manly. But then throwing down his bar, Buffy dropping her axe, he tells her that the last Slayer he killed begged for her life and that Buffy doesn't strike him as the begging kind. And I love this chemistry and moment with him and her. I love how they move in closer to one another and how Spike is walking. He's like bending his knees like, I hate to use the term swagger, but he's like walking with this vibe, almost like he could pounce at any moment type thing. She tells him that he shouldn't have come here and he agrees. He messed up her doilies and stuff. And I was like, what is a doily? So I like Googled it really quick and it's those fancy white knit
It's those
napkins
grandma
and
things.
placeholders. Yeah. Did you know what they were? I didn't know what a
Of
doily
course.
was. So it's
Yeah.
like those little lace placeholders that everyone used to have. And I was like, oh, I've seen those before. And I was like, that's what that's called, a doily?
Were you like, why the fuck are you talking about some doilies? She ain't grandma.
Well, for some reason, I thought dolly in my head, like a dolly, like you carry stuff with.
Oh, when you said dolly, I was thinking about dolls, and I was like, no, that's Drusilla.
Yes. But he says that he just got so bored, going on to offer to her.
I'll tell you what. As a personal favor from me to you, I'll make it quick. It won't hurt a bit.
And then she calmly smarts back to him, and I fucking love this quote. She goes,
No, Spike. It's gonna hurt a lot.
He swings at her. She dodges as they go into fist fighting. I love this like first part of the sequence too, because as he punches her, she goes to kick him and he hops up over her. It's different than her just fighting any normal vampire. You can tell they both have tactics
for a while.
Yes, this is like the chemistry is fucking gorgeous. And we cut to outside as Xander and Angel are taking on the vampires that had chased them. Back inside, Buffy and Spike are hand to hand, fairly matched, exchanging blows as Giles ushers people out the back of the stacks. And at this moment, too, Joyce has that little pause where she's not feeling right. We don't know that she's staying behind for a second, but she turns and looks and she's like, I don't think I should leave yet. And we're like, why? And we're about to find out. Angel protects Xander outside, and the vamps decide they've had enough and run off. Buffy continues to fight Spike. He goes to punch her, missing, and his fist goes through the wall, her kicking him in the back of the head. And he's like, now that hurt. I was like, I just love it because his hand gets pinned and he's stuck for a minute, and she just takes this moment to kick him in the back of the head real quick. And he's like, fuck. But then he pulls out a wooden beam and hits her in the fucking back with it, knocking her over, and he's raising the beam over her head as she's beneath him on the floor to go to strike her again. And then we see an axe hit him in the back of the head and it knocks him down and out the way. And he just looks up like, who in the fuck dares? And he looks up to see Joyce wielding the axe and stating,
You get the hell away from my daughter.
fucking awesome. Yes, Joyce, let's go. I'm probably gonna have to change my volume because I just watched me go all the way up to red in my bars. But he shouts out women and growls and leaves the scene. Buffy stands by Joyce as she tells her, nobody lays a hand on my little girl. Aw, and she hugs her. Fuck yeah, Joyce, get it. This show is now called Joyce the Vampire Slayer. We flash outside to cops at the school front, a police chief telling an officer to take care of this. Snyder coming up to him, calling him by his first name, Bob. So apparently they're on like good terms. The chief telling him that they all got away and it's over. He tells Snyder that there's a body inside and one on the south lawn, saying that he needs to say something to the media. And should he use the same story as usual, gang-related, PCP? And Snyder's asking what you have in mind, the truth? And he agrees quickly, the usual story it is. And I was like, ooh, they know. They fucking know. Even though they didn't say it, they alluded to the fact that they know the truth.
I was so excited in this moment because it was one of those things where you go on thinking as a first-time viewer that like these adults must be either careless or they are so unaware, because there is way too much weird shit happening routinely, like daily, weekly, whatever, for someone to not have said something by now. So I'm like, where's the authorities? Where is anyone asking any legit questions around what the fuck is happening? And how has no one brought up the fact that like 18 teenagers have died in the past like season?
Or more.
So I'm just like, hello, when are we going to address this? So it gave me a sigh of relief because I was like, okay, cool. We're not unaware. We're just bullshitting. But then my brain went into this weird conspiracy theory place because I was like, Y'all, what if weird shit like this goes on in real life and they just be telling us on the news that everything is like gang related? And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
but what if it isn't?
I know, right? There's vampires out there killing people all the
I
time.
mean, I'm not saying like Spike's out here trying to suck us all dry, but I'm like, you know,
I hope he's out here trying to suck me dry.
there could be other things out at large that we're not getting told because we get to just blame the usual. And I'm like, I'm never trusting anything again, ever.
Yeah, no, legit. It's like worth pointing out too, like it's not just teenagers that are dying all over town. There's vampires all over the place. So people are showing up dead all the time. Like I was making comments last episode about the bite wounds in people's necks and all the other things like that. The town's
Yeah.
always getting this whole thing. So obviously it lets us know, like, once again, the government is corrupt, and anybody that a police like type, I mean, I'm not saying everyone, but
Anything authoritative is
yeah,
not real
it
or true.
positions of power oftentimes lead to some kind of corruption. And obviously they're trying to keep it for good reason, probably, because you can't just be like vampires are a real thing. It would send the town probably into hysteria and be on edge and all these other things. Like I don't know. It's
Well, they
the whole thing.
can't admit that because then they would have to admit that witches are real, and they don't ever want to admit that because, because.
Well, yeah, it's the tall tale story, but I like the fact that we get this here. Snyder is placed in this position for a specific reason, not just to keep the school under wraps. I don't know or can't say if he exactly knows that the Hellmouth is here and all this stuff's going on, but he knows that this obviously a bunch of bullshit happens at the school, and he's been placed in this position to not only watch the school and the things and the activities that's going down here. That's why he's always like, no dead students this week. I don't want anything bad happening and blah blah blah. It leads you to kind of believe that he knows still, once again,
There's a
more than
purpose
this
to
letting on.
him. Yeah, totally.
Yes. Well, Giles and Jenny are coming out of the entrance of the school, and she's commenting on another fun-filled evening. And Giles is like, "I'll understand if you start avoiding me." And I love it because she just loops his arm and she like walks off with him. She's like, "I'm here for
Mm.
this no matter what." And then obviously Xander have their moment when they're walking by together, and he's like asking Angel about his tactic, and Angel clarifying that he would have obviously had to make the first move, and if Spike took the move, then he would have known that he was buying it. And Xander's like, and if he had bit me, and he's like, we would have known he bought it. And I'm like, so y'all would have just ate Xander right there, and he would have been like, oh well. He'd be like, he's out the way, no more triangle.
You gotta risk it for the biscuit.
And then I like how Xander smarts off as he walks off. He's like, what's with the whole sire thing? So that way it gets brought back later, because obviously this is setting stuff up to come up again. Buffy and her mom are motioning to leave the school, and Buffy's asking her about what Snyder had told her that night. And Joyce is saying to her that he told her that she was a troublemaker, but that she could care less. Buffy looks very surprised as Joyce adds, I have a daughter who can take care of herself, who is brave, and I want to point out the word that she uses, resourceful, because we know Buffy is the queen of resources, and that she thinks of others in a crisis. No matter who she hangs out with or what dumb teenage stuff that she does, she will sleep better at night knowing all of that. I love this right now. Buffy asks how long before this mindset wears off, and Joyce is like, at least a week and a half. And Buffy's like, this is very cool. I love this for Buff and Joyce, because you should have more faith in your daughter, and it's sad that it took this display. These are some big building blocks for that mindset and for the acknowledgments here, and I think they're great because she's been coming down on her for forever, and now maybe she can actually accept her daughter a little bit differently moving forward. I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. I love Joyce. I felt like she came through as the mom that I've been waiting to see her be, because for a long time I just thought she was dismissive Joyce and like unaware Joyce and like this very typical parent of probably most high school kids, where I think parents safely assume that a lot of the anxieties and challenges that teenagers have are very like quote unquote teenage, and so I think she gets this exposure that's super needed to kind of enhance their dynamic as mother and daughter and help them understand each other better, because obviously Joyce ain't as like stupid or unaware as anyone thought. This bitch, we see where Buffy gets her resourcefulness from, it
Mm-hmm.
came from somewhere, and we see that in this episode. So I feel like this just shined this whole new light on her that I really am so obsessed with, because of course we're going to keep ragging about how she's like smoking her weed and doing her thing and whatever, but when the time comes and she needs to really step up to the plate, she does it, and she did it in a way that was so, it was like tenfold, it brought everything together, from making us realize that she's super aware, she's super accepting of Buffy,
Mm-hmm.
she's super understanding if she's under the gun and she's in like a very like vulnerable or intense moment. She obviously has like the ability to trust her daughter and that she's capable and responsible for herself, which I think is like kind of brings the element of teenage dynamics with your parents full circle. You know, you kind of you just want your parents to acknowledge that you are a human being and you're fully capable of yourself in spite of the fact that you're 15, 16, 17. You still want to feel kind of like your parents see that you're growing up, you know, and not treat you so like, no, you can't do that, or I don't think you can do that, or in whatever way it comes across. I feel
Mhm.
like it was just so refreshing, and I'm just so obsessed with the whole situation and how everything ended. So I'm looking forward to what happens next.
I know, right? Well, they leave, and so do the cop cars, and we pan back inside the school to the janitor closet. Willow and Cordelia are still hiding, and as Cordelia is seen praying that if she just gets out of this, she swears that she'll never be mean to anyone again unless they really deserve it, or if it's that time of the month, in which case she doesn't think that they can blame her. Oh my god. These gods are like, bitch, calm down. And Willow behind her, hella annoyed, looking at her to ask, can you ask them to send some aspirin? And Cordelia's dumb as fuck, doesn't clock her smart ass comment immediately because she's like, and could you guys send some, hey? And then we get our final scene. The next morning over at the factory, we see the sun rising. I'm so excited for this. A beam of light coming in through the window as Drusilla nurtures Spike over the Slayer hurting him and him essentially failing. He is bummed and he announces that he didn't expect a Slayer with family and friends. She assures him that he will kill her and they will celebrate. The Anointed One tells Spike that he failed. Spike says that he offers penance, kneeling before him. The other vampire saying that he should lay down his life. Their numbers are depleted because of his attack and his antics. The Night of St. Vigius is also ruined. They're like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, yes, we get it. Spike's impatience. And I was like, I love how this is meant to mirror and call back to the three offering their lives as penance to the master. And then obviously Darla kills them. But Colin has essentially stepped into the role and seniority, like status of the master, because he's the one basically pulling the strings now, so to speak. But Spike is a rebellion. He is not truly into all that shit, and he's not going to lay down his life or follow underneath someone else's rules, which is why I personally like Spike, because he's not doing it like by the book like most people would or these other vampires have. So he does this. He agrees that he was rash. He says that if he could do it all over again, and then he laughs and he's like, actually, I would do it exactly the same, except I would do this, getting up and grabbing Colin over his shoulder, kicking the other vampire as he goes to carry him away, taking him over to that hanging cage, locking him inside, and he exclaims as he pulls on the chains, starting to hoist Colin up towards that light beam that was shining through the window, screaming out, as he yanks that fucking chain one more damn time, sending Colin right up into the sunlight that's pouring in through the window at the top.
And a little more fun around here.
And we hear the off-screen dust because obviously we can't kill a child on TV. And Drusilla looks over at Spike, aroused at this moment, and she grabs his hand and they walk off together. And he's like, come on, let's see what's on the telly. As we pan back up to the cage that is seen smoking, and Colin has been slayed by Spike nonetheless. We fade to black, and here endeth the episode. That was fucking badass. I'm going to say first off, yay, Thomas, aka Colin, is no more. We don't have to worry about the Anointed any longer. We're done clearing up this fucking season 1 to season 2 energy. Everything's fully closed off from that now. We can start anew. Then that's why I was telling you last episode, or maybe in episode 1, I don't remember because now they start to blur together, but I know I was telling you when we started season 2 that after episode 3 instead of episode 7, we get the kind of kickoff for the season. Like, and now you can see why. It was on my side of things to finally voice this. It was so hard and so exciting at the same time to wait for this build up of Colin's death scene, because we knew he came back in season 2, and then you were like, fuck, he's still around. And obviously I know everything that's coming.
Not for long. I did not see that coming in any way, shape, or form, but I think I'm realizing as you were kind of giving me your take on Spike that his rebellious nature and his way of doing things not by the book is going to probably feed us more of these moments, because he's so fucking unpredictable, where he just be doing whatever he feels like doing in the heat of the moment, and sometimes he probably doesn't even know what that looks like before he does it. He just does it, you know. And that spoke volumes to me, because it makes him so much more dangerous when you can't predict what someone's going to do, because there is no ritual, you know what I mean? There is no routine. The only thing he has is strategy, but that is like evolving.
It adds more to what Angel was saying in the library about once you start something, he doesn't stop until he's finished.
Totally. Yeah, totally that. And it's just, you get this really good sense of his character, I think, just from this like 30 seconds of exchange between him and Thomas. One of my favorite parts was when he was already like, he already was so dismissive toward the anointed one, because every other vampire that you see come in is immediately like, I'm going to bow to you. You are my master type of situation. There's this understood dynamic that's never questioned at all since the whole start of the show. Because once the master's no more, he basically, like you said, falls into his space. So it's organic to continue with the same dynamic. And for him to come and fuck all that up, not just like between himself and the anointed one, but for everyone who was just being held together with structure and routine because of his pure existence, and that's it. So now all that falls by the wayside and leaves us with chaos, and that's it, just chaos. But at the same time, I was also like, holy shit, like who does that going into a place? You're new. You just walked in here 5 minutes ago and you just like full on took everything by the reins. So it's just like the weird mirroring of where we came from. Not to mention, he just ran away from Joyce. He ran away from a human being, but then he goes in and like the anointed one is this big fucking deal, and he just like straight snatches him up, throws him in a cage and kills him. 0K per slay for the anointed one, by the way. I'm like, damn, they dismissed you.
Like I said, can't kill kids on the screen in this time.
You're right.
But that's why we had to do it that way, which I don't think would have been a big thing because he's a vampire kid. It's not like he's like a kid getting killed by like vampires, and
I
they're
mean,
showing the
he's
kid get
responsible for
drained.
how many people's deaths himself. So,
Yes.
like, yeah.
Oh shit. Well, I'm happy
Yeah.
that he's gone, but yeah,
Mhm.
I can pretty much move into closing thoughts too, because metaphor, it is so hard to talk about the metaphor for this right now because it all leads to spoilers. We'll have to circle back when everything can be wrapped up and it's presented. So, there's that. There is some hidden stuff in subtext though that's presented in my closing thoughts, basically, that helps meld a little bit of the metaphor together. Throwing that out there. The misogynistic tone that Spike has and the rapey vibes whenever he's giving these statements. His comments to Buffy about his long staff, aka his weapon, makes him feel all manly as he rubs down his belly in that motion too. It's very sensual, and he's like holding that pipe, so it's like obviously supposed to be like a phallic thing, basically being sexually suggestive. And then him stating that the last slayer begged for her life, as women tend to beg when they're being harmed, through an act of violence, basically saying, no, please stop type stuff. Like he's like alluding to that type of stuff. And then he's also making the comment of how he smells a nice, ripe girl, basically commenting on her potent pheromone type stuff. I was like, ugh, like looking at it in this context, because I read it in the book for metaphor. And I didn't want to include it metaphor because I just talk about it now. But I was like, it's a little skeezy because, of course, he is an evil vampire. So he's going to have a sadistic nature, obviously. He has no soul. He has no conscience, whatever. And he's probably
Yeah,
done.
but the master was the same and he wasn't rapey about it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this guy obviously doesn't give a fuck. And I'm sure he's done pretty unfathomable actions in his time because obviously he's gotten to here and now. And he took some sort of pleasure in taking the Slayer's lives that he's done before, too, with the fact that he said the last Slayer begged for his life and he still killed her anyways. Evil, evil, evil vibes. But we'll go along more and how that mentions it as we get to know Spike some more. But I found it valuable info to remember as well. I dig the Spike here that we see for his likable villain vibes, because most people going into this episode, they started to really like Spike just from jump. Most people weren't like, oh, I hate this guy or anything like that. Not in a true hate fashion. It wasn't
no.
I just hate them like that. They can drop dead for all I
No,
care type stuff.
I just like him for the other characters, as if I were a character, if I'm on Buffy's side. But yeah, as a viewer, I totally love him, and I love that he's come and like fucked everything up, because why not? You know what I mean? Like, what else are we gonna do? We can't just keep having like the weekly new villain or monster or whatever. We have to have some other undertone of something like we did with the master, because there has to be an element of doomsday. Like we have to be dreading everything.
As always, I will say that this is the best one we've gotten so far. And this one brings in some new big bad energy and shows us the new threat that Buffy is going to have to deal with. And knowing that they're in town to bring Drusilla back to her power in some way, that's why they've come to Sunnydale, because they made the comment about the mob and how she said in a few weeks that the stars will align for us to do what we plan to do here. So that lets us know that they're going to be dealing with something more intense, because their goal is to resurge Drusilla's natural nature back. And that also adds to the Angelus story. I'm not even going to say the Angel, because their history was with Angelus, not with Angel. And I can't wait for us ultimately to find out how that all unfolds. Because if, Spike was connected to Angel, that means Drusilla and Darla both have a history with him as well. So we get to find out more about that as we go on, which could pose some interesting dynamics and shit for us as we go forward. You'd assume anyways at this point. And I like how controlled Buffy is here more than anything for this episode. She manages to run the events pretty smoothly, even without the help of Sheila. Spoiler, by the way, we never see or hear from vampire Sheila again after she runs off. I have to tell you now, like I do every time whenever we have these moments, because like I always say, season 5, you're going to be waiting around and be like, whatever happened to Sheila if it ever comes up? Or you'll just never think about her again. I think this is a missed opportunity because they could have had her come back as a foe for Buffy, or even just pop up in an episode in some way, shape, or form in the future, and they never do it. So it's really annoying.
Damn.
It just doesn't
I thought
happen.
for sure she would be like down there, as part of Spike's
team or something. That would have been cool. Yeah. See Buffy kill her one other day or something. I don't know. I do like that Buffy thankfully succeeds in her efforts to close on that, even though as usual it's hard, aka school hard for her. But I think by the ending we get with her and Joyce, it's played out in her favor for this like whole event to have taken place, and she's not expelled, to say the least. The humor that's delivered hardcore as usual. Like we got the funny vibes with Willow going on here. Like honestly, I need to make a section in the final slays at this point for who was the funniest in the episode, since humor and sarcasm are always reigning supreme in the show's writing and dialogue. But I feel like we mention them as we come along, so they don't need to be their whole section. But I took notice to it a little differently this episode because Willow had the funniest moments.
There was a lot, yeah.
And I need to see the lost footage, like I said, of her slapping them cups out of people's hands all night too. Buffy also needs to never make lemonade again.
I did want to say though that I missed an opportunity because it wasn't like a great like grand scene, but I did a random fashion watch on Xander's shirt where he's like wearing that blue shirt and he looks like he's going to a Hawaiian prom. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And I was so shocked when I didn't hear you say anything about it. I was like, Brandon, I need you to up your game.
Was this when he was like in the library with them earlier, Whittle and Steak?
They were like outside in the courtyard walking. It was like a very short scene. It was like it was all 3 of them, but Willow was wearing like the overalls, and then in the next scene you see Buffy wearing the overalls, but she's like wearing them because she's painting, and I like made a note about that too because I was like, fashion watch on Buffy wearing them overalls way better than Willow was.
Oh, no lie. I didn't even pay attention to Xander's outfit at all because I think I just wasn't even looking at him in that way. I was just waiting for his neck to get drink up. But all right, well, that basically closes out the major stuff for School Hard, and we can get into our final slays.
Final slays.
Yeah. I didn't want to whisper it this time. What's your quote for the episode?
I think the opening quote got me the most, where Principal Snidey was like, think of me as your judge, jury, and executioner. I was like, oh, oddly enough, this sums you up as your whole character. So I'm in love with this.
Nice. I have 2. My main one is Xander when he's like, that's it, I'm putting a collar with a little bell on that guy whenever Angel leaves. And then I also liked whenever Willow was like, Cordelia, have some lemonade. Just because
I wrote that one down too.
Just because, like I stated earlier, it was giving Deliver, and I was just like, oh, flashback to episode 2. My weekly Wiggins was the lemonade that Buffy prepared.
I said the same exact thing.
It's the only thing.
Did.
It just makes sense as a weekly Wigs because nothing else was giving me the Wiggins.
Other than, I will say Drusilla's dolls kind of did give me the weekly Wigs for a second. I was like, but maybe it's just her.
It's just her in general.
Yes.
I'm assuming since we had weekly Wiggins that were the same, our Shining Slayer might be the same as well.
Is it Joyce?
It's Joyce, because duh. I mean,
but of course,
it's Joyce. Joyce came through. Joyce basically defended Buffy in the end, and had it not been for her, like Spike might have slayed her in this moment. I really don't think that Buffy would have been dead in that moment. I think she would have got up and continued to fight, but it helped break up the fight and like level out the tension that was happening and occurring, and basically ended the night. So Joyce is coming through with those protective vibes, and I fucking was here for it. I'll never not root for that bitch.
Yeah, she was totally the shining slayer of all slayers for this episode. I will say Willow was probably a good runner-up because she really had to put her work in for the PTA meeting, and like she was having to do a lot. I was like, dang, poor Willow showed up and was just thinking she was going to have to set up some tables and lay out some tablecloths, and here she is having to slap cups out of people's hands and everything else.
Willow's like, from this standpoint, especially, Willow is a really good friend. Because Sheila wasn't there, and her, I mean, even Xander technically too. Willow in a different way because she was with Buffy through and through the whole episode. But like whenever they're having to work on that poster board and stuff, Willow and Xander are standing right there. Like, Xander was more so hanging out. I don't remember seeing if he was painting or not, but Willow's helping Buffy paint that banner and helping her with Joyce, basically, like I said, being the goat and taking her to each classroom and all the things. She just really deserves the second runner-up for Shining Slayer, I will say.
Yeah.
Even though we don't usually have a level 2 for Shining Slayers.
Level 2.
All right. Well, Slayerette predictions. What do you think may transpire with Angel and Spike, since the season is saying that they've known each other previously? And obviously now they've got beef because Angel's a good guy. Like, what do you think may come about with the Spike and Angel kind of energy?
I can't imagine that it won't be anything other than them being like enemies, more or less, because of the fact that now it's clear like their sides have been chosen, and I think he knows like where Angel lies, and it's not obviously like in his favor. He's not trying to come out here and drink everybody's blood and take the fucking world over. So I think maybe because he realizes that Angel has, I guess, like a good conscience or like a moral compass in place, whereas the rest of them don't, it will be very hard for me to believe that he's like, oh yeah, let's still be friends, or let's do our dirty work together. So I definitely think it sets it up as like they're gonna be dueling it out a lot more than not. Like that might be, I don't know.
I
And
like that.
obviously because Angel was trying to pull kind of the wool over his eyes, and he was like, you can't fool me, and he was kind of onto it, And even though that within itself was a thing, but yeah, I think that like now it's just problems.
Exactly. I like that you said that they will be dueling in a certain way. So I'm gonna remind you of that in a future date and time.
Okay.
Next episode is called Inca Mummy Girl. What are we thinking?
What the fuck?
I love it.
I mean, obviously something about a mummy, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that's all I got.
I mean, that's all you can really got. And they might be a girl, and they also might be from Mayan, because the Incans are from Maya.
Oh, okay. I get it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, obviously, but yeah, that's all. I cannot imagine where that fuck that's going.
I can't wait for you to watch that episode. I can't really give any spoilers or anything like that, but it's one of my, like, off of my ones that aren't big episodes, because like season 2 has a lot of really, really big episodes that are just like, if you had to choose your favorites from a list, all those would tack off in the beginning. But as first jump, as like little sub-level episodes, Inca Mummy Girl is like low-key one of my favorites from season 2. I just love it so much. It's fun. It's like interesting. We get some introductions of another new character and stuff in that episode too, so you can look forward to that. AKA you and Meredith need to go watch it tonight.
Should I text you again before I watch it?
Probably. I'll watch it again, as always.
All right.
All right. Well, we're officially done with School Hard now. And I want to once again add a thanks to everyone for listening to our recap of School Hard. What do you think of Spike and Drusilla? What were you guys' first impressions? Do you agree with our girl Joyce being Shining Slayer? Because we sure do. Anything give you the weekly wiggins? Because we want to know that as well. Let us know, and we will catch you guys back here next time for Inca Mummy Girl.
I think any of those Slayers ever had to go to high school.
It's no biggie. You'll have a nice soiree. Parents will love it. As long as nothing really bad happens between now and then, you'll be fine.
Are you crazy? What did you say that when nothing bad is gonna happen?
What do you mean nothing's gonna happen?
Not until some dummy says, as long as nothing bad happens. It's the ultimate jinx. What were you thinking? Were we even thinking at all?
Well, you guys don't know. Maybe this time it'll be different.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Buffy on Revamped. Remember to join us next week for a new episode release as we continue our journey through Sunnydale. We also would like to hear from you, so share your thoughts. Discuss with us your perspectives on this or previous week's episodes by following us on Instagram and sending us a DM at revamped_rewatch podcast.
Or by emailing us at revampedrewatchpod@gmail.com. Additionally, we will be choosing one of your messages to shout out in an upcoming episode release. And don't forget, if you're looking for a friend and some unsolicited advice for the times when life feels out of orbit, go follow Life in Retrograde Podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time, the Earth is definitely doomed. This podcast is dedicated to the Buffyverse, to its fans, and my sister, Tiffany Dawn Pearson.